Hello again. My apologies that it's been quite a few weeks really since proper video, but well, here's one, so I hope you enjoy it. The video is about a type of cattle called the Heck cattle, which soon you'll hopefully know a lot about. So, firstly, to start off this story, I'm going to tell you about the auroch. You perhaps know of it, perhaps are familiar, but if not, then it was a bovine creature, kind of similar to the cow, alive in most of Europe, not Ireland and not northern Scandinavia, but the rest of Europe, and it also extended east into areas like the west of Russia, Turkey, Iran, those sorts of countries. This creature, it was a lot larger than cows and was commonly hunted, especially by the nobility of the European nobility. However, unfortunately, after hundreds of years of hunting and habitat loss due to increasing farming, the animal did go extinct in the early 1600s, despite attempts to save the creature by the Polish royalty. And for a few hundred years, that was that. The aurochs were extinct, and the only real memory of them was their closest living relative, the domestic cow. Although, thanks to two German zoologists, brothers in fact, the Heck brothers, this was about to change. Now both brothers, Lutz and Heinz, both wanted the same thing, to bring back the auroch, and for rather similar purposes really, and that was to partially to educate the people about the auroch, but also because they felt humanity should have never made it extinct in the first place, and they quite simply wanted it back. Now, considering this, you would have thought they'd have done this together. However, to reasons I can only speculate on, they actually went about this creating two different recreations of the auroch, both different cows, different breeding programs. Now, they both had high positions in different zoos, and so they both easily had the funding and resources to do this. The biggest reason I can think of why they do it separate is perhaps as a challenge or a race, but I'm not really sure why. Can't find any concrete reasoning. Due to them having split their ways, I'm going to have to tell this in two parts, one for each of the brothers. And I'm going to start with the story of Lutz Heck. So, as I mentioned earlier, he was the director of the Berlin Zoo. And with the positions that gave him, he began his work on the Heck cattle. Now this was in the 1930s, and if you've done some history, you may know what was on the rise in 1930s Germany. Yes, the Nazi Party. Now, this is where the brothers, this perhaps actually was one of the reasons that they split their ways, but Lutz Heck was a member of the Nazi Party, however Heinz was not. And Lutz actually, because of his similar viewpoints, he actually became good friends with the Reichsmarshal of the Nazi Party, Hermann Goering. Now, Hermann's interest in animals and hunting were very extreme. It was one of his biggest hobbies, in fact. He was actually given two titles, one which was the Reich Master of the Hunt, and another one a few years later, which was the Master of the German Forests. So as you can see, he was the most fitting member of the Nazi Party to Heinz's work. However, also, to give you a scale of things, I believe he was the second most powerful man after Adolf Hitler, as his primary title, the Reichsmarshal of the SS, was actually created for him so that he could be at a higher position than other similar people. He also had titles such as the Supreme Commander of the Luftwaffe and the Minister President of Prussia. So clearly Lutz had a lot of high friends, and as thus I think He had a lot more resources than Heinz to do his job. However, unfortunately, this is where Lutz's story really finishes, because actually in bombings on Berlin, Lutz actually lost every single example of the Heck cattle he was working on. So unfortunately, those Heck cattle do not exist today. Luckily for us though, Heinz's work did survive. Heinz's work in Munich does still survive to this day. Now, I couldn't find any pictures of Lutz's, and I couldn't find a list of the differences between them either. However, one thing to note is that Lutz's, the one that perished, did include the Spanish fighting bull, which wasn't present in Heinz's. However, breeds that were present include the Corsican cattle, the White Park cattle, and the Highland cattle. Now, I don't believe his final result was too bad. I think it quite well resembled the Auroch. It had very similar coat colour, very similar horns, although as some critics have noted, the size, it was still a bit smaller, and the animal was a lot more bulky rather than muscular and lean like the original Auroch was. However, not all hope is lost of us seeing the Auroch roam our lands once again, for multiple different groups are still to this day trying to recreate the Auroch, trying to follow in the Heck brothers' footsteps. Now, there are a few of these, but I'm going to talk about one which I think is the most promising and has yielded the best results so far. Also, this one is quite relevant as it uses the Heck cattle as one of the breeds to try and recreate the Auroch. Other breeds do include the fighting bull, which is not present in modern Heck cattle, as well as very large breeds such as the Sayaguesa and the Chianina, which is actually the largest cow species. And although it doesn't really resemble the Auroch, I think this is really to get the size to what they're looking for, and then they've fine-tuned it after that. And here is one of the best examples of one of these Taurus bulls that most closely resemble the Auroch. Now, I just have one thing to say about this Taurus program, and that's that I don't think the name is very good, because, well, you may have heard the word Taurus before, and that's because it's actually the species name for cows in general. So I think it is rather confusing to name what is intended to be a breed after the species, but no one else I've seen has picked up on that, so maybe it's just me that cares about it. Now, that's really the discussion over for the history of Heck cattle and recreation of the Auroch in general. However, I wouldn't usually say this, but whilst researching the subject, I found something that I found very hilarious, and that was actually a news article written by The Independent, which I will leave linked down below, claiming that the Heck cattle, in fact, I'll read the headline: Nazi super cows, British farmer forced to destroy half of his murderous herd of bioengineered Heck cows. Now, it is funny how wrong this is. The first word, Nazi, if they'd done the research, they would realise that the current Heck cattle actually have no ties to the Nazi Party, as all of those had gone extinct. The next word, super, I don't have a clue what they're getting at here. It probably links into where they call it bioengineered. Now, perhaps you could make an argument to say these were bioengineered, but they are just as bioengineered as any breed, whether that be a dog or a cat. I don't think that's the case. I think they are trying to make it seem like there was some sort of crazy science going on, but no, they were just bred to create a specific phenotype. Thank you for watching. Please watch more videos of this channel to really stave off fake news. Goodbye.